Okay. Hello,
Okay,
Wendy. How
great.
are you? Good evening.
Good evening. Lovely to see you, Mirit.
Lovely to see you. I just noticed we're wearing sort of similar colors. Interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just looking at the same thing. This was not prearranged. People need to know we didn't do like you used to do as a kid and phone up your friend and say, "What are you wearing today?" We didn't do that.
Exactly. This was not arranged. So it was great minds think alike.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's start for the sake of the people that are here on time. So, evening, everyone. My name is Mirit Hoffman. I'm an elder law lawyer and a gerontologist. My focus is mainly helping senior citizens stay in control when they reach significant crossroads in their lives. And this includes mainly helping them with their estate planning, which is wills, enduring power of attorney, trusts, and also issues to do with their dual citizenships, usually with US and Israel. And from my broad exposure with this age group, I realized that there's a lot of other issues that should be discussed that are not discussed. And therefore, I decided for over 2 years now to have these sessions with other professionals that deal with or work with or have knowledge about issues to do with the elderly. And today we're going to be talking to Wendy Lehmann, who is a fashion stylist and a personal shopper. I'm very excited about this talk. So,
Me too.
so first of all, thank you so much for being here with us, and please introduce yourself.
Okay. Um, so thank you for the name check. Absolutely. I'm a fashion stylist and a personal shopper. And I've been doing this for actually more years than I now care to admit to. But a very long time. I semigrated from England to Israel about 20 years ago. But I do have a foot in both countries. I have two sons in England, one son in New York. Until a few years ago, my mother was alive in England. So I go back there a lot. All my siblings, my nieces, I have a lot of connections to England, and I work in both those places. My main focus now for my work is in Israel, because during COVID I was here the whole time. So I built up quite a significant client base during COVID, because actually it turns out you can do really effective wardrobe edits over the virtually over
Over
Zoom.
Zoom.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so that was actually quite, and during that time I also created an app so that when people so what we do is we upload pictures of of all the clothes you've got in your wardrobe, and then I put together outfits for people, and we curate their wardrobe virtually so that they can, sit in the bath or lie in bed and just swipe through the virtual closet and decide what they're going to wear that day.
Very cool.
So I mean, there are so many things I want to cover in the half hour we've got, but so I'm not going to spend too much time talking about why I got into this, but I am just going to very quickly mention my two grandmothers, one of whom lived with us my entire childhood. And she'd been a really successful businesswoman before Hitler came. She was from Vienna, and then when Hitler came, she escaped, and she pretty much lost everything. And throughout her life with us, she was dressed in well, what we would now call leisure wear, but it was, a poor excuse for leisure wear. It was really just a kind of apron, and she would only ever get dressed on a Sunday when she went to tea with my uncle. My other grandmother lived alone and had come from quite an aristocratic background, and again, lost everything as a result of Hitler. But um, I never saw her in any way other than immaculately turned out. And she didn't have much money, but she was always dressed beautifully. And she didn't spend a lot on her clothes, but she put things together in a way that was stylish and smart and sophisticated. And it struck me that how very different these two women were. And I think, I wasn't somebody who read Vogue every week in the school library or anything like that. But that power, the power that I could see in those two women, the different power in those two women, the power of somebody who was getting up in the morning to present herself to the world, compared to my maternal grandmother, who wasn't, let's just put it like that, really resonated with me. And they were like that until the end of their lives, which, and they lived long and happy lives, but they both stayed in those corners, in those opposite corners, sartorially speaking, for the whole of their life. And I think that is actually what sowed the seed for me to be passionate about getting people to understand that how they show up is actually the life that they can live for themselves. So that's where it all comes from, I think.
Yeah, it's a very powerful, actually, thinking, because I think when you get dressed up and you sort of choose which persona you're going to be that day according to what clothes you wear, even according to the colors you put on you, I think it makes a big shift to your mood. Also, if you're going, you can see, I mean, if I'm working from home, then I will wear more comfortable clothes. If I know that I'm going to a meeting, then I'll dress differently. And also, suddenly when you're dressed differently, then your whole attitude, at least my whole attitude, is sort of different.
I think that's really true. 100%. That is that you feel differently. You feel more powerful. You feel more ready to take on the world. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I think we all know that somewhere we've all had that experience of knowing how when you dress in a certain way, you actually feel that you are more capable. I mean, it's not just that you look nicer; it's that you are more powerful. You absolutely are more powerful. You're showing your authentic self, and that is what gives you your power. 100%.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's start our conversation. So we're basically talking about dressing your age, right?
Yeah.
So tell me, what does that mean for you, dressing your age?
Okay, so I think living here in Israel, there's quite a focus on constantly trying to look younger. And that's not actually something that I think is necessarily the right way to go. That's not to say that okay, let me put it a different way. I think this is a fantastic age. As we get older, I think there's that fantastically freeing moment where you suddenly realize that you can that you have the power to look fantastic. It's no longer down to whether or not you're an extra 2 inches taller, or you've got slightly longer hair, or you're the look of the moment. It's about how well you take care of yourself, and by that I mean what you exude, and what you exude is a kind of well-being, and that is what is so attractive as we get older. So it's that look that says you've come to a point in your life where you have achieved a certain something, and it doesn't actually matter what that something is, because what you're exuding is this look of, it's not smug or satisfied, but it's a peaceableness that I think is incredibly attractive as we get older. So it's not this kind of edgy look that young people do, and it's, it can be exciting and lovely on young people. But as we get older, what is so much more attractive, I think, is this look that says, I've worked out what works for me, and this is it, and I'm at peace with that, and that's what you exude, and that is and that's within everybody's gift to do, because that is about understanding your style, personality, understanding your body geometry, dressing to accentuate the good bits of you, wearing the right colors, wearing the right shapes. Those are the things that are going to give you that look that tells the world you've made it. You're where you're supposed to be. And you don't get to do that when you're young. You only get to do that as you get older. Like the young have lots of stuff that's on their side, but we get that. Yeah, we get that as we get older. So I think so I love it. I think it's, I've said before, I think it levels the playing field. I think it's now within everybody's gift as they get older to really look fantastic. And that's about understanding your style, personality, understanding what shapes work for you and why, no longer having to dress in the latest fad or the latest trend, but really understanding what's right for you. But quick caveat here, making sure that you stay contemporary, because of course that's the other thing. But you have to, with every decade, you have to just make a little switch. Otherwise, you can end up being a bit stuck in a rut. So, you have to keep re-examining the look, but it's definitely so much more fun to dress as we get older, I think. So much more fun. Yeah, really like freeing and exciting.
That's really interesting. Because we were having this talk, I was sitting and waiting for somebody to come, and I remember I was sitting at a coffee shop this morning. I had my car done, so I was sitting in a coffee shop waiting for my car, and two women came. Both were frum, both wore shaitels, and one I can actually see, and the other was sort of sitting opposite me, so I couldn't see her face until she got up. One was wearing they both looked like they were dressed to go out, which was nice. Mm-hmm. One was wearing a longer skirt, but totally put together. Like, she looked really good. And the other one, I didn't see her. I only saw her behind. She was wearing a very, very short skirt, very, very tight skirt, very long shaitel. And I don't remember, nothing special about her shirt. When she got up, she turned around, and then I was thinking, I wonder what Wendy would have said about this, because she was like 40 years older than the other one, and it just looked, didn't look
incongruous. I think I think it's you touched on a really important part. It is that incongruity. People don't want to shock when they look at you from the back and then you turn around. There needs to be a congruity to your look. It needs to work with the whole of you, so that you look age appropriate. That's not, I really want to stress, I'm not talking about necessarily dressing like a sufter. There's nothing wrong with being a sufter, but I'm not talking about dressing in a mumsy or a frumpy way. I'm talking about dressing in a stylish way, but I'm talking about dressing in a way that is appropriate for the occasion, but also congruous to the person you are. And the person you are is partly the age you are. So you might, no matter how good you look for your age, you are, there is still something about you're not 20, and so there are certain things that you shouldn't wear anymore. And actually, I think with some of these things, there are certain things that actually I think you're already too old to wear once you're in your sort of late 20s. There are some things that are only really suitable for the very, very young. And I encourage the very young to wear it while they can, but then they've moved on. They're not in that phase anymore. And there is something about, or at least I think there's something about, if you're still trying to hang on to that, it's almost like you haven't quite achieved what you needed to achieve in that period of your life. And so you're harping back to that. And that's not the most attractive quality about someone. I think the most attractive quality about someone is that they're at peace with where they are at every stage. And how you dress is all part and parcel of that, I think. And very much also it's about body geometry. So I don't know what this woman that you were looking at today was like. But for example, if I think about, if I think about someone like Melania Trump, she was constantly wearing things that were somehow incongruous to her body geometry. She's a wonderful height. She's a really statuesque woman, but she has a very natural body geometry. And to shoehorn her into sort of smart suits that Jill Biden looks wonderful in, but that just constantly made her look uncomfortable. I think if you go back through the 4 years of Trump's presidency, every single picture, bar the one when they were leaving after he'd left office, Melania Trump looks incredibly uncomfortable. And partly that might be something to do with what was going on around her, but it's also partly because she was absolutely in the wrong clothes. And I just, obviously I watched the coronation the other day, and the same was true of Charlene of Monaco. Also, she's an ex-Olympic swimmer. She's got this wonderful statuesque body, which is crying out for kind of, the right sort of natural garments. And they've put her into a classic suit that is much more appropriate for somebody who has a completely different body geometry. So there's all those things that should be considered when you're dressing both yourself or, in my case, dressing other people. So your lady in the coffee shop today was probably dressed inappropriately, both for her age and maybe even for her body geometry.
Probably.
Yeah.
I think, there was this, I don't know what it was about. I just saw a little bit of it, but there was this catwalk that was shown, maybe as a reel, a week ago or so. You saw this model with very, very high heels. Could well be that the heels were not her size, because they just give them whatever. And she tripped.
Yeah.
She tripped in the middle of it, and she was so upset. She fell down. Everybody was like, "Oh!" She took the shoes off. She literally threw them off the stage, and she got up, and she just continued doing the walk barefoot with this very sort of, this is how I was supposed to walk. This is how I feel comfortable with. And all of you, if you don't like it, you can just leave. And it actually was a very powerful statement. Because I think a lot of us sometimes we dress because we think that's what we are supposed to wear, or sometimes we dress because, you're supposed to wear very high heels when you go maybe to a very nice occasion. You're supposed to wear maybe a very tight skirt for this and that and the other. But at the end of the day, if you look like you're actually suffering from it, you don't look attractive. Even if it fits you, you don't look attractive.
Exactly. That's exactly right. I mean, that's exactly it. And it is all about looking and feeling great. And that is about, so everybody, irrespective of your style, personality, irrespective of your body geometry, everybody can look wonderful and everybody can look appropriate for the right event. But it's about understanding how to do that. And you're 100% right. There are some people that will never feel right in, sky-high stilettos. And if they don't feel right, you will see that on them. You will see that on them. That is what they will in some way project. And that is not attractive.
Exactly.
You sense that discomfort in somebody. You do. I mean, specifically, I'm thinking about your followers and the people that you work with. And I know that as one gets older, it can sometimes feel less purposeful, or sometimes it just gets harder, and some people just can't be bothered, don't want to do it. And a lot of people just think, what does it matter? Nobody's looking at me anymore. I think there's definitely something as we get older where we think it's not worth trying anymore because nobody's looking. So I just want to debunk that myth. I really do, because it's just not true. People notice if you look nice. They notice if you look nice because it gives them pleasure. It gives other people pleasure to see someone nicely dressed. And my late mother lived to her mid-90s, and the last few years were hard. And she would sometimes lose patience with me. I'm careful how I'm saying this. She would sometimes lose patience with me, because if we were going out, I would always put together outfits that were really nice. And I would and she would say, "What does it matter?" And I said, "It matters because you will feel much better, and everybody around you feels much better when they see you looking nice." So I mean, it's not true that it doesn't matter as we get older. It matters very much, I think. In many ways, it matters more because the young can pretty much throw on anything and still look kind of okay. And as we get older, we need to put a little bit more thought into it. But there's some sort of joy about turning up looking well dressed and looking radiant. And that's a joy that you feel, and it's a joy that the people around you sense. So no one out there should be thinking, it doesn't matter what I wear, nobody's looking at me anymore, because it's just not true.
It's
yeah,
so not true. First of all, you're looking at yourself because you wake up and you get dressed, you look at the mirror, hopefully, and you look at
yeah,
yourself. And it makes a difference if
yeah.
you feel that you're looking good. I actually have this conversation when I prepare, I work on estate planning, and one of the documents that I prepare is called a durable power of attorney, which is a document that one prepares for if, God forbid, is no longer capable of making decisions on their own. And I always look at the person in front of me. Is she still coloring her hair? Does she put nail polish on her nails? And is that something that's important to her? And most of my clients always have something to say about it and say, yes, actually, it's very important that I continue going to a hairdresser and that my hair gets colored if she does or not if she doesn't. And that, yes, please take care that I do put nail polish and please make sure that it still does. And, those little hairs on my chin, please make sure that somebody takes those off. And those are very important.
Yes, they are. They absolutely are. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So I totally agree. I wanted
Yeah.
to shift a little bit because I don't know how, but our time is sort of cutting short. Um, can we talk a little bit about, okay, so we know that it's very important and we should be able to do it. Is there any tips or something that you can say, okay, but one would say, listen, I go to the shop and I can't find anything. It's all for the younger crowd. What should I be looking for? How should I, do dress
Yes.
appropriate?
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so the first thing I tell clients is let's go shopping in your own wardrobe first. So I think a wardrobe edit is like if somebody's feeling a little bit lost in terms of what they want to do with their closet, the first thing I think the best thing to do is a wardrobe edit. And I suggest that for two reasons. One is that almost all of us find it easier to buy some things over others. You find it easier to buy pants and not tops, or you find it easier to buy tops and not pants, and we all find it easy to buy shoes. And so you'll end up quite often with too much of one thing and not enough of the other. So of course it's quite hard to get dressed in exactly the same way as it would be quite hard to make a sandwich if you had no bread but masses of cheese. So it's the same thing. It's exactly the same principle. You have to do an audit of what you've got. You have to try to resist the temptation to buy more of the things that you've already got a lot of, and you have to actively start looking for the things that are gaps in your wardrobe. So you're already a bit more focused when you're shopping. I have all sorts of tips about positive and negative shopping experiences. I don't think it's easy to shop in Israel because, first of all, there is a degree of attentiveness by the shop assistants which converge on oppressive, really. It converge on oppressiveness. It's too much. The mirrors are usually outside the changing room. So you've got it, you put it on, it may not even fit, you may not feel so comfortable going out in front of other people, and you've got to go out to even see yourself. So it isn't, and then of course the shop assistant is on commission and very keen for you to buy it. So you don't have somebody there who's telling you dispassionately whether or not it works for you. So I always say to people, if you're not sure, go shopping without your wallet. Because if you say to the assistant when you go in, I forgot my wallet, I just want to try on a couple of things, I'll come back, they'll leave you alone because they know you're not going to buy. They'll leave you alone and you'll have a bit of peace to think. Because it's really hard to concentrate when somebody's like, a chicken in your ear saying, no, that looks lovely, that looks lovely. You definitely can find stuff in the stores. You definitely can. It's about how you put them together. Even if you think the stores are only catering for the younger people, there will be things in there that every age can wear, but you have to know how to put it together. And often it will be about buying just one item from maybe one of the younger high street stores and then pairing it together with something that's more classic, that you've either already got in your wardrobe or from a store that caters for a more classic, more mature look. So there's definitely something about how you put the things together. There are certain things that I would say need to be edited out of your wardrobe from the moment that they kind of go out of fashion. So I mean, the example that immediately springs to mind is a waterfall cardigan. Waterfall cardigans were everywhere about 8 years ago. And for about 3 years, everybody wore them. If you're still wearing a waterfall cardigan now, I can carbon date you from 60 paces. It's like absolutely absolutely a classic example of somebody who hasn't kind of kept a contemporary look going on in their wardrobe. So there are certain things that you need to know to get rid of when they're no longer in fashion. That doesn't mean you have to be wearing the latest fad, but it does mean you have to know when certain things are no longer in fashion and they need to go. So don't go if you find it a bit oppressive in the malls. Don't go at the busiest time. Go on a Tuesday morning, not on a Friday morning. Go after work when the malls are emptying out a bit. Don't go when it's heaving with young people or people with children. So there are certain things you can do. Think about who you shop with. Many people, I'm a mother of sons, so I didn't have this, but many people will shop with their daughters. Daughters see you as their mother. They don't see you as a woman, whatever. They don't see you as an independent woman of a certain age. So they'll often be viewing that through the lens of daughter mother, which isn't always as objective as you might need. If your partner hates shopping, don't drag him shopping with you. Why would you? If he hates shopping, I mean, unless you have to agree every single purchase with somebody else, unless you share a budget and you have to agree every single purchase, don't drag an unwilling partner or indeed an unwilling sibling or friend or anything with you shopping. It won't end well. They'll be ill-tempered. You'll feel pressured into buying something, and almost certainly you'll go home with something that doesn't work. Think about who you shop with. There are some great shopping buddies and some less good shopping buddies. Sometimes the dynamic with people can be productive, and sometimes it can be counterproductive. So think about who you shop with and who you feel comfortable with, and all of those things. I could go on, but I'm conscious. People want to go to bed at some point.
Yeah.
So there are lots of, and when I do personal style workshops with people, we go through all the positive and negative shopping experiences, because it is, and you should get to a point where your wardrobe is such that no invitation can land in your inbox that you can't get dressed for. That doesn't mean that you don't want to go out and buy something new if you have the time, but that occasion pressure where you get an invitation and you haven't got anything to wear and you've got to rush out and buy something almost always ends in a mistake purchase. So, the idea is to build a wardrobe that has got enough flexibility that pretty much every invitation that lands in your inbox, you can get dressed for if you don't have time to go and buy something new for it.
There's something that you said which I really liked, which I actually wrote down so we won't forget from last time. Most people wear 5% of their wardrobe 85% of the time.
Yeah.
Do you want to just elaborate on that?
Yeah. Okay. So I think the statistic is 15% of your wardrobe 85% of the time, and it's 100% true. It's 100% true. And that's because there's something about that 15% that feels exactly right for you. There's something about the way that outfit makes you feel that is it is your real style personality. But what you can't necessarily do is deconstruct the elements of that to work out exactly what it is about that works. So you'll sometimes think, well, it's just a shirt and trousers. I mean, I should be able to recreate that with any shirt and any trousers. And then you try to do that with 10 other items and it doesn't work, because there will be something, either the cut of the shirt or the shape of the lapel or the size of the print or a detail on the cuff. There will be something about those elements that when they're put together are, without you necessarily recognizing it, your perfect style personality. And everything else doesn't quite work. And when you work, certainly when clients work with me, what we do is go through their wardrobe and find ways to make at least, I would say, most of that other 85% work for them, because you've already bought that. So you've spent that money, you've invested in those things. If we can make them work by putting them together in a different way, or by recognizing that we're missing one element that we can then go out and get that will make that outfit work, that makes economic sense. And going forward, understanding why those things haven't worked as they, as they were when you bought them, and not making that mistake again. Not, and we're all guilty of that. The first time stuff comes into the shops after a long winter, and you're suddenly, the sun's out, and you want to go and buy something new, and everything looks great because you've spent the last 6 months looking at, woolly jumpers and puffer coats, and suddenly there's all this lovely stuff in the shop. So everything looks fabulous. So you go out and buy a whole load of stuff that isn't necessarily ever going to be right for you. So understanding those elements really helps you build a wardrobe that isn't just sitting there with the tags on, never getting any airing, but actually is getting worn.
Okay, well, those were all very good tips. Very important information. We could go on and on, but I don't want to push the people that are already here. So thank you very much. Oh, one thing I will though mention that you are a personal shopper, so therefore I will put your number for other people if they're interested in getting advice and
I'd be delighted to answer any questions. If people want to get in touch, please put my contact details. And people can find me on Facebook, and I have a website and Instagram and all the usual places.
Well done.
So if anybody has any questions or something I didn't cover that they're desperate to ask me, they should feel free to do so.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Wendy. Thank you
very much,
everybody
lovely
else.
Talking to you.
Yes, it was really lovely talking to you. It was really, really nice. Thank you for everybody who was watching. Have a very good night. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in my next live.
Yeah.
Bye. Bye.